I'm joined now by Colorado Senator Michael Bennet. He serves on both the Intelligence and Finance Committees. Senator, thanks so much for taking the time this morning.
Thanks, Jim, for having me. I really appreciate it.
So we are watching here the slow annihilation, as the Pentagon describes the Russian strategy, of what was, until a week ago, for most of the country, a peaceful country. I know you do not support U.S. troops on the ground. It's the position of the Biden administration as well. No-fly zone, because both those things would put U.S. forces into direct, deadly conflict, potentially, with Russian forces. I wonder, if Ukraine falls, if this progress continues, will you still believe that?
Well, look, Jim, this is a devastating attack on Ukraine, and we have to do everything we can right now to supply the Ukrainians with lethal aid that they can use to try to fend off this criminal Putin, this tyrant Putin, and that's what we're going to do. I think that my view is that we should not put U.S. troops on the ground or in harm's way in Ukraine, and I think that's the Biden administration's view as well. But we have to do absolutely everything we can do as an international community to try to slow Putin's progress and to punish him as hard as we can. And to me, it's gratifying to see the way the international community has mobilized to do that.
I just wonder if it's enough, right? I mean, we heard Sergei Lavrov say today that this campaign's going to continue, right? No matter what the costs, in effect. And it's CNN's reporting that, yes, Russia has suffered losses, perhaps 3 to 5% of their total force, but Ukraine has suffered 10% losses, and it's a smaller force, as you know. The direction lines are not good. Is the West doing enough?
Yeah, I think the direction lines are not good, and while we should hope that the Ukrainians are going to be able to stop this, and I hope the Ukrainians will be able to stop this, and that Putin will seek a political off-ramp of some kind, that's not what we should expect, because the numbers are what you just described them to be. But this is an attack not just on Ukraine, it's an attack on democracy, it's an attack on the ability of humans to determine their futures, and I don't think that we should be going to war with Russia. We've just spent 20 years fighting 2 wars in the Middle East that, by the way, I think was a tragic mistake for the United States of America. We shouldn't have done that. This is not the same situation, but I think that we have to be disciplined about this. We have to offer the Ukrainians all the aid we can. We need to summon the world to push back on Putin, and I think that's what we're trying to do. But there is and I'm not going to say that it's inevitable that Putin's going to succeed here militarily. I think it's inevitable that he has made a horrendous decision for himself, for the world, and for humanity. The United States has to stand up for democracy and for the Ukrainian people.
Is this, though, perhaps a 1939 moment, in that, are we confident that Putin stops at Ukraine? If he doesn't believe Ukraine is a country that's somehow part of the greater Russian Empire, he feels the same way about Belarus, which he's already subjugated. He doesn't believe the Baltic republics should be independent. Why should we believe he stops here?
Well, I don't think we should believe that, and I think we should reserve the right to change our position if he goes beyond Ukraine. My mom and her parents were Polish Jews who barely survived the Holocaust in Warsaw. They and an aunt were the only ones that got out. I can tell you that nobody in my family, including myself, is assuming anything about what this lunatic is going to do. When you saw him the other night on television talking about, throwing, of all people, Vladimir Lenin over the side, saying Lenin gave away Ukraine, and sort of making himself into a Peter the Great figure, reestablishing the Russian Empire, we should be very clear-eyed about what is possible here. So I think we need to stand up the way we are. We need to lead the rest of the world. We need to be pleased that Germany and Switzerland and others have come in ways that I think a lot of people didn't expect, and we're going to have to do what's necessary. And again, this is a battle. The president is right about this. We are living in an era, speaking of 1939, when what's on offer here is totalitarianism versus democracy. And whether you think about what Putin is doing in Russia today, or what China is doing with their state-sponsored capitalism, they believe democracy's when they looked at January 6th, what they said is America can't lead, democracy is ruined, and what we have to do in this moment is show them that we're here to fight for the people of Ukraine and the right of human beings to determine their future.
Senator Bennet, until a week ago, a former American president, a former American Secretary of State, many on right-wing media, regardless of what they're saying now, until a week ago, they were defending, praising even Vladimir Putin. By doing so, were they emboldening him? Were they, in effect, aiding and abetting?
Of course, of course, of course. And it's tragic and outrageous. You know, some have said that it's treasonous. You know, people can make their own judgments about that, but when the Russian television is playing the words of cable television hosts in America to support what Putin is doing, when a former president of the United States is championing this kind of outrageous behavior, it's pathetic.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think
Senator
this
Michael Bennet,
I would say this is an opportunity. The other thing is, this is an opportunity for people in this country to say it's time for us to put our divisions aside, to unify, and to begin to work together, because our internal divisions are a threat to democracy as well.
Yeah. Well, Russia celebrates them, we know, very publicly.
No doubt
Senator
about it,
Michael Bennet,
no doubt.
thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jim.